how can you convince somebody about the existence of God? Can you imagine until now, there are some people who have a problem with the fact that there is a God, or God does exist, there is a creator. So how and what is the best way to bring to the attention that there is not only that there is God, but this God has to be one and unique, etc. The concept of Tawheed in Islam.
Jazakallah khair. Actually, I like the way you put the question, because you can't force anybody to be a Muslim, and you can't force people to believe something if they don't want to believe it. And the way you said, how can you present it? And that's our only job, is to present it. And what we should do, in this case, if somebody's serious about this, they want to talk about it, is to just begin with something very simple. The things that we see in front of us every day, we have no problem accepting. Even though some of the things, we don't know how they came about, but we accept it. When we see an automobile go down the street, we say that's a Toyota. You and I was talking about cars today. There's a Toyota, there's a Volvo, look over here, there's a Chevrolet. But we've never been in the places where they make those things. We've never seen anybody make the cars, but we still know that they were made, and they were made by those people in those places. So as we can understand that, how about when we look to the universe and we see the patterns that are established very well throughout the entire universe, everything from the macro to the micro. When we look at the big picture, the planets, the stars, and so on, and everything in these uniform patterns, revolving, moving, and all sphere-shaped. Then when you look in the microscope at the molecules and so on, you find the same thing again. You see organization, you see things that are there that are impossible to have accidentally come about. As to what or who created all of that, that's another matter. But to prove there is exactly what's called intelligent design, this is something that scientists today, many have come around to say, well, at least I'll say that thing at some time that must have started it, because there's too much intelligence involved.
Well, some people still argue, particularly those who claim to be scientists, because I believe if they are true scientists, they would definitely resort to the fact that there's got to be a manufacturer and a creator behind this magnificent creation, as you just described. They claim all of that happened as
an accident.
An accident, whether the Big Bang or the Mother Nature created that.
That concept flies in the face of someone who's a true scientist, because the scientist is supposed to clear the board when they begin and start with no information, and then with no prejudice, no preconceived notion or concept, you sit down and you begin to add the evidences to prove or disprove whatever theory you might have. And when you start out saying, well, I already don't want to believe in God, well, okay, then why are you even going to talk about it? Because this is no longer a scientific exploration. It's nothing more than a personal vendetta.
Well, you know this Huxley scientist who say that perhaps if we bring a bunch of monkeys and they sit for millions of years banging on the typewriters, there is a possibility that they can come up with something similar
like
to Shakespeare.
Yeah,
right?
I heard about that.
And luckily, another scientist from New York, he replied to that scientist by saying that the probabilities of picking up the coins, if you number the coins from 1 to 10, you have coins and you number them from 1 to 10, you throw them in your pocket, and you try to take them one after another in the same order, in an ascending order. He said the probability of picking number 1 the first time is 1 out of 10, and so on. But to pick them in the same order from 1 to 10 is 1 in 10 billion times.
That's true.
So after all, there are still some people who may imagine that this universe and our livelihood and maintaining our life and the life of everything that exists, sun rising every morning from the east, and the air, the oxygen that we breathe, and the provision that we eat, everything happened as an accident.
But Sheikh, look to the way the Quran starts out. In the very beginning in Surah Baqarah, you know it better than me, is that after Allah talks about the believers, He tells us who the disbelievers are, and He even tells us whether you warn them or warn them not. So don't be upset, sister, if the folks don't agree with you about the existence of God. Don't be frustrated. Don't get worried about it. Just realize that this is the way that some people choose to believe or disbelieve. You show them what you can, and use our website. I have one called godallah.com. It has a lot of evidence there.
Beautiful. Barakallah feek.